Good afternoon, Waterford Street School. This is Principal Martin with your afternoon announcements. I'm coming to you from outside today on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It is June 5th, 2020, and we're going to start with birthdays this week. In Mrs. Pineo's class, Anthony Calderon Casson had a birthday. Also in Mrs. Pineo's class, Stephen Dutch Gosselin had a birthday. In Mrs. Whiting's class, Taylor Tessitore had a birthday. In Mrs. Wickham's class, Camilla Diaz-Vega had a birthday. In Mrs. Burpee's class, Connor Gosselin had a birthday. And we have two birthdays coming up this weekend, both of whom are in Mrs. Doherty's class. Haley Bresnahan has a birthday, and Jasper Lefevre has a birthday. I hope you friends either had a great birthday or are going to have a great birthday this weekend. And now we'll move on to the teacher nominations for Student of the Week. And then we will pick our Student of the Week winners. In Grade 1, Mrs. Elwell has nominated Brody McDonough for Student of the Week. In Mrs. Gallant, Hunter Schultz was the nominee. In Mrs. T's, Atreyu Morse. In Mrs. Correa's, Elijah Rodriguez. In Mrs. Whiting, Caleb Burgos. In Mrs. Ruiz's class, Landon Boyce. In Mrs. Jarvis's, Nicholas Anderson. In Mr. Murphy's, Lucy Arsenault. In Mr. Pianca's, Jace Ledger. And in Mrs. Murphy's, also Jace Ledger. Nice job, Jace, getting nominated by two teachers. Now moving on to kindergarten. In Mrs. Spozato's, Isaiah Rodriguez. In Mrs. Doherty's, she also nominated two people this week, Jasper Lefevre and Isabella Rodriguez. Nice job, friends. And Jasper, nice job in your birthday week. In Mrs. Pineo's, Fiona Dwyer. In Mrs. Bates, Colin DePaula. In Mrs. Scipione's, Carly Murphy. In Mrs. Thomas, we have two nominees, Tyler Gilbert and Abigail Savula. In Mrs. Wickham's, Camila Diaz-Vega. In Mrs. Triolo's, Gabrielle Rodriguez Hernandez. And in Mrs. Almonte's, Aubrey Burgess. And now let's move on to preschool. In Mrs. Boatwright's, Louis Feliciano. In Mrs. Burpee's, Nikolai Reyna, And in, in Mrs. Henderson's, Lily Brierly. And in Mrs. Coxall's, Bryson Hernandez. Nice job, friends, being responsible and doing the work your teachers asked you to do this week. I'm really proud of you. And now I will draw from the names of not only the students who were nominated this week, but the students who have been nominated throughout all the weeks. Unless you've been already drawn, I've left your name in here. So let's see what we come up with. In Mrs. Elwell's, Cassidy Barr. Nice job. And now moving on to kindergarten. This mug is very appropriate. And notice it says, I love weekends, and crosses out the other days. In Mrs. Thomas's, Ariana Montijan. And in pre-K, in Mrs. Burpee's, Nikolai Reyna. Nice job. And last but not least, I am going to draw from the teacher nominees for the week. Colleagues have nominated teachers, and so I will, got a stuck one here. And the nominee is Mrs. Elwell for contributing greatly to the remote learning plans. Nice job, Mrs. Elwell. I should also mention that this is Mrs. Elwell's last year here at Waterford. She's retiring at the end of this year, and it's been a crazy way to go out, and I know she misses terribly all the students at the school, and particularly the ones in her class. But I did just want to give Mrs. Elwell a shout out, not only for being the teacher of the week this week, but also for just outstanding service to Waterford Street School over these past 20 years. Great work, Mrs. Elwell. And with that, we'll end our announcements. I hope everyone has a safe, respectful, responsible, and kind weekend. Take care.